What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Games Recap.
Morning. Welcome back. Really excited about today's episode because it takes us back to Dreamcast days when I was in high school and I had the best game console ever, Sega Dreamcast, and I had a really cool game on that console. And I don't want to give it away, but let's talk about some topics.
All right, but before we go into the topics, for the first time viewers out there, I am Brandon Pham. This is Larry Charles. We're here every morning, rain or shine, because we're indoors. It doesn't matter. 10 a.m. on twitch.tv/blue_champs. It's a way to interact with us while we're doing this live. It's the way to complain about us while we're doing this live.
Yeah, you got something to say. Say it to our Twitch.
Say it to our face, and we'll read it.
Twitch.
Because these are all opinions, and we want to reflect as many opinions as possible and discuss. And that's the most important part. Of course, if you're watching us on youtube.com/bluechamps and catching us on a recorded session, leave your comments below, and we'll fight you in words.
We'll do our best to make sure that every comment gets answered or at least gets read. We can at least go that far.
Yes.
We're not big enough that we, get so many comments that we can't.
And if you want to support us directly, go to Twitch Prime subscription, those $5 that you have lying around every month.
$5 footlongs, baby.
Give it to us, or go to patreon.com/bluechamps to get these shows in audio form. That's our next goal, getting this on podcast form. I know you guys like listening to us on the commute, in the bathroom, on the toilet,
on the airplane,
outside, wherever you may be, and audio just has a great way to do that. Of course, you can just mute the video and just watch us.
Yeah.
But finally, let's get to today's topic. All right, let's shoot this up here.
Oh shit, mister, want to wrestle? That's a little lead-in innuendo, a little hint as to what we're talking about today.
All right. So we talked about this a bit last week, where Epic, on their rampage to upset backers, and this is not really their fault. We're not really blaming Epic. They're doing what the competitors are doing.
Epic is doing what they should be doing.
They should be doing.
Yeah.
This is more on the fronts of Shenmue and developers that promised backers who supported them, Kickstarters at the very beginning, and kind of turned their back on them. Let's call it turn backers. And decided to do an exclusive after the fact that they got funded. And so a lot of people who love their Steam, that have, it's a more established platform, it's more trusted, it's been around longer, and so they just more conveniently want it on Steam, and they're not getting the Steam keys because now it's exclusive on Epic, and so there's a whole backlash to that. However, Epic, with their Fortnite money trucking in, say, we have a solution. If you want a refund, we can give it to you. And that is a huge sign of trust.
Well, to me, like, I look at that and I'm like, Jesus, Epic. You know what I mean? Not in a bad way, because it's not their responsibility to come forward and save these developers from potentially a bad business move, so to speak, right? Yeah. The developers knew at the time that they were going on Kickstarter. Yeah. They knew at the time what tiers they were setting up for their goals. Like, if you pay $30 or if you pay $60, we'll do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. We will do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. That was the promise. Yeah. Epic is coming through to fulfill a promise that they didn't even make. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's them trying to do better than good business. They don't have to save developers from their own mishaps, from making a promise, going to Epic, and then finding out that they're not going to be able to deliver in some way. Yeah. So I'm actually really excited to see that Epic would take this kind of a step, because that only, in my opinion, actually promotes me wanting to work with that platform as a developer, or like that's like the signal that they're sending, like, hey, look, we're going to be a good place for you to put your games. We're going to do everything that we can to partner with you and make sure that not only are you happy, not only are we happy, but the customer is happy. Yeah. So much so that we're going to fix a problem that we didn't even cause.
Oh man, so much money. You know how much money you have to be like, let's throw money at it?
Well, I mean, they probably did the math pretty easily. They saw how many, you can just go to the Kickstarter,
even though it's closed. And they're like, okay, $20,000 to shut people up.
Sure, like 20,000
and it
backers.
Looks way better for us, and we get on the good side for both developers and people who are consumers.
Plus, I think it's a smart move anyway.
Easiest
Shenmue
marketing.
3, people have been waiting for this game.
Yeah.
Maybe not as many as Half-Life 3, but Shenmue 3 has a cult following.
Yeah,
There's a
does.
lot of people from the Dreamcast era who played 1 and 2, really excited about getting that story finished.
Yeah.
Never thought this game was going to see the light of day.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's this close to being downloadable, executable, and playable, and, you know, hey, I played it, I beat it, finally. I've been able to end this saga. I think that it's a smart bet on their behalf to, sure, we'll take that little bit of a hit. We'll give you, you know, 12%, right? And we're going to pay off all the backers that are supposed to get a free copy. And we're going to make it exclusive on our store. And we still believe we're going to recoup positive return.
Yeah. I mean, all the press that they're getting from just saying like, hey, we're going to make right with all the backers. We agree with you guys. And it gives them a leg up. Yeah. From all the issues that they had before, because there were other games that had backers, but for them to kind of start with Shenmue and be like, this is what we're willing to do, refund anybody that feels like they've been cheated and they don't want to move over and migrate to the Epic store, here's your money. Yeah. There's really not much anybody can say against them at that point. Even all the haters and backers is like, well, you don't like, you just get your refund. That is insane. That is a smart move. And look at all the press they're getting. I mean, they're getting an hour dedicated from us. They're getting all these news outlet kind of showing the love. Man, it feels really good to have money to be able to kind of just throw it at people. Do you foresee them doing this more on other games, or are they going to be more careful about exclusives that they're going to have backers with? I
think I just look at the signals that Epic is sending out, and everything that I see that they're doing is mutually beneficial. Even to the point where they're going to say, we'll actually do something that in the long run helps us, but in the immediate it's going to cost us. They're even looking at those types of strategies and still saying this is going to be positive net. So we're going to do that. The signals that they send out are all very strong, all very positive in my opinion. They haven't overcrowded their store. It's very easy to be one of, I don't know, maybe 40 games on the main page right now and still get some attention. The hierarchy in which things are placed, I mean, it's very clean, it's very attractive looking. They're also giving away like a curated free game every couple of weeks or every month. I don't know the cadence, but I keep seeing my little updates like, oh, The Witness is free now, or oh, this game is free now. And so I think they're doing everything that they possibly can right. And this is the power of having money when starting a new thing, right? Yeah. You can force competition. You don't have to, you know, nickel and dime and scrape and try to cut costs and cut corners. You can actually just do good business because you can afford the long haul, because they're getting a lot of money coming in from Fortnite right now. So where I'm interested in seeing is, obviously, if Epic just has Fortnite and it continues to just be Fortnite, the platform it is right now, they're going to see a tail dip, right? Where like, all right, I've been playing this game for 2 years. You know, I was 14 when I started. Now I'm 16. I'm interested in cars. I'm interested in girls, or even girls like, oh, I'm interested in other things than Fortnite right now. This reminds me of my early childhood. I moved on to something else. So when the tail starts to show, when the hundreds of millions start coming to be tens of millions, I don't know when this will be. I'm just saying. I want to know like where Epic's stance will be on being so competitive with the like, oh, well, we'll still just shell out money for this, or we'll still, you know, pay that, or we'll still be as competitive as possible. I think that 12% cut obviously is because they're making so much money. They can afford to do something like that because they have a 1-2 punch. What happens when it's just the one punch? When the Epic Games store itself has to be viable and profitable itself. That's what I want to see, how they start doing things then.
The great thing about the Epic store is that I think because they're new in the market, they're being competitive, they're more willing to innovate. I wouldn't be surprised if they're already having plans like a Kickstarter-esque type of plan into their store. Be very smart. Like if you take Steam
top to bottom
where it is right now, and if you are pushed to innovate, these are the options they're thinking. Kickstarter is a downward spiral because they are focused on so many other areas besides games. Even with games being such a dominant force in Kickstarter campaigns, right? They're only just a percentage of what they offer as like a crowdfunding platform. And for that reason, the issue with, and I don't think it was exclusive to games, for a lot of their projects that they were backing, there's just people that didn't deliver, right? And that's off their platform. They don't care about it, but it hurts their platform. So They probably having plans in Kickstarter form to try to like bring back the loyalty and trust. Otherwise, like what's happening right now, a lot of people are exiting or not even looking at Kickstarter as an option, both on the consumer side and developer side. Is you get lost in the crowd as a developer, but as a consumer, you don't trust it because there's no restrictions in place for you to get your product or whatever, right? If I was Epic, the Epic Store, if it's not just a place to sell your games, it's a place to fund the games that you want to back. Oh my God! Yeah, it's actually that seems to be such a natural evolution to what a store should be.
I think that would be a great addition to what Epic is offering. Yeah, because now I see Epic being part of a full development cycle.
They're very smart. They know exactly that Fortnite will eventually lose its flair, right? Which is, in the last month, there's a 38% drop. And it's not like failure. It's just less successful.
Sure.
And it's already happening. And no matter how great their seasonal drops are, people just get super saturated and bored. And that's just the cycle of gaming, right? There's just so much competition, so many things taking your interest that's going to happen. So their store is a great backup plan to kind of control the market and get a piece of every game that is sold, which is what Steam and Valve has enjoyed for 5+ years. That's why they're so fat to be relevant and competitive. And when you're in first place, that is a natural thing to happen. As champions, you just have this. You just lose your drive and you value other things, right? And you're not looking to compete anymore.
So to kind of go back though, Epic Store, right? Look at it this way from the developer's perspective. Yeah. If they had, like you said, a Kickstarter like wing, like, hey, bring your idea, sell it to your fans, get your backer money to develop your game, right? Then boom, your game's done. Put it on our store, right? But then, hey, we've also alleviated that problem of all the people who paid the $40 already getting a free copy because they're already in the system. They're already through the Epic Games Store because we've added the funding up front. We're already able to distribute and give away the free keys or whatever other things that you've promised through the logistics that we can offer. That's top to bottom right there. That makes them very strong.
Yeah. Sorry, the wire is just in the way.
Well, I don't have much room to. It's going to have to be that way.
It's fine. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, that was the end of the idea that they're going to offer a top to bottom solution if they had the crowdfunding option, right? Yeah. So like, hey, got your money, got your people backing you. Cool. Made the game. Now it's on the Epic Games Store. We're still partnering there. So not only did we get a small cut of the fundraising, not only do we get a small cut of the of the sales, but also we've made it more convenient for the consumer to be both funder and consumer simultaneously. Oh, yeah. Because they already are in the system.
Definitely.
We handle all that back end
stuff. And this is just me taking 2 minutes to solve that stupid issue that Steam has always had. It's just like, it's so saturated with crap now. And they try to put the gate up and like go through like a review process, which was closer to the solution, right? For them to open all gates and let everything in devalues their market, in my opinion, right? There's no curation going on, and there's just a lot of crap and a lot of like terrible games, not just in terms of gameplay but in terms of content. And it is hard to kind of subject to that, right? Because it's very subjective, right? Whoever is reviewing has a preference and whatever. Sure, I understand that standpoint, but 80 to 90% of games on Steam is turning to crap now, especially with AAA developers kind of pulling out. It's becoming a problem.
It feels reminiscent of like what I'd say the iTunes store is for games right now, where you still have like quality titles there. You still have a lot of fun stuff worth discovering and playing. But if Apple themselves didn't curate it in a special way, if it's like maybe 3 months outside of its primary release and not getting that attention, but still like a polished game, like a gem, it's diamond in the rough. Because man, if you're not within 2 to 3 clicks away from like the top of the genre category that you're in, ain't gonna be found, man.
Right.
I'm not. No one's gonna click 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pages in and filter through all like a bunch of like crappy games to find like, oh, there's that game that was forgotten about.
Right. So like I imagine a platform, because they had like the Steam Greenlight thing before, right? Yeah. Where it's like popular opinions, basically. If you have a audience, they would upvote your game to get into the store. That was closer to me to achieving, like, making sure great content gets into the store. A step above that would be get your game funded, and once your game funded, it gets to be on the store. And that's a step above, where it feels like, it's going to be good for Valve, right? Because the game that is getting funded, they get a percentage of that for the game to be made. But also when it sells, maybe they can work out a deal and get a sales of the cut. Maybe it's all in one thing. But that's just them. That's just being competitive and like, how can I make this experience better for consumers and developers? And they just completely skip that. And we're getting money no matter what. Plus, let's just let them fight it out. And whoever's a victor, we still achieve from the low side of like shitty games, but also on the high side, because our 30% cut will add, even if it's like 1,000 shitty games and they only make $5, we get 30% of that. And that adds up for us. And they just backed away from that. It's like, that's fine. We win either way.
Plus, there's also an opportunity where, because of repeat business, you can make the cost of each opportunity to do business lower. So the developer feels that as like, wow, to break that example down, okay, you fund through us, we're going to take 5% cut of all revenue that you bring in. Cool. You also put on our store, instead of the normal 12%, maybe we take 8%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then the combining of the cut that they take from the funding and then the cut that they take from the sale could total up to more than what they would have gotten had they charged more for just doing the sale and not been included in the funding.
Right.
Also, from the developer's perspective, if both of those numbers are lower than the competitive market, like if I were to go to Kickstarter for a funding platform and your number is lower than Kickstarter, then I go to your store to actually sell because your number is lower than Steam, that actually feels like a double win. They're like, wow, both of these are actually lower than what I would have done elsewhere, so I'm going to go to Epic. So therefore, Epic has now lowered the barrier a little bit because they're combining the two opportunities to sell to you into one platform, to one product, even though both together is better than each one individually would have been, I guess is what I'm saying.
The advantage that Epic has is right now is that they have to select your game to be on the store. And
you got to look good. You got to be buttoned up to get noticed by Senpai.
Exactly. So what is happening is that you go in the Epic store, it's just all great games. And I hope they keep that. Because
everything made the cut.
Everything is made to cut. They have to keep that standard up, because the quality over quantity, that's the business right now.
That's what's been missing.
Yes.
So if they stay that way, I mean, they
have to stay that way. Yeah.
I would say, sure, you might be cutting off revenue, right? Because let's be honest, Steam having hundreds of thousands of games available, sure, top to bottom, who cares? There's probably a lot of revenue that's generating.
Of course.
Where if Epic was like, look, we're going to stay committed to making sure we have finely curated content, that means there's a lot of content that they are not going to have. So there's a lot of revenue that they're not going to get a piece of. But from the consumer's user experience, I think that's always going to be in their favor. It's like, cool, I know that when I go to the Epic store, like you said, it's always going to be cream of the crop quality content that's provided. I only have 2 to 3 pages to click through max. Right? Versus chapters and epilogues of content that I'm going to scroll and scroll.
I go to the Steam store and it's just overwhelming. And unless I know what I'm getting and trying to search for, which used to be like big AAA games, which isn't anymore the case, right? Everyone's pulling out. I can't imagine 2 years down the line, like, what am I searching for? I'm going to be faced with games I never heard of that 99% of it's crap because there's no curation going. And I know they have like a curated way to do things where that you follow. Come on, man. You're not gonna be Facebook if you're not gonna put Facebook effort into it. Or Twitter effort into whatever the kids are doing nowadays. Twitter is more popular now. But like, if I'm gonna follow a curator, right, and add that social aspect to the Steam, in which they try to do, it needs to have more than face value, right? It needs to be way deep, because you go beyond that layer of you having because the friends list is a separate list, and then you go on the Steam page and there's people that you follow. and you click on those people. It's just it's not as simple as it could be, right? If I go to the Steam page and they kind of have that where if you have people you follow, it's kind of personalized to the curated content. But the games that you see at first are just games you never heard of, and there's no Valve recommends stuff.
It's the best deal games. Like, wow,
it's the best deal
30% off of Hinukonia number 17.
Yeah, and not to hate on Walmart, but I'm feeling feeling cheap, dude. You know what I mean? I'm walking into a Walmart store versus a Target, right? And it just shows the lack of care, and it's just more about maintenance. And let's be honest, Valve is a really small company, right? They don't have the resources to make games and tend to the store.
I'll say they haven't committed to getting the resources.
Yeah,
they can do it. You know what I mean?
They can do it, but maybe this is kicking them in the butt to make them realize their fucking number one resource is under fire right now. And yes, they still have the lead by far. It's not even close, right? But they're losing a lot of steam.
Well, let me ask you about your user experience with Steam, right? When do you go to Steam when you know you want to make a purchase? Just that.
The only time I go to Steam right now is that there's a game out and I know that I want to play it on my PC.
So you already knew ahead of time you were going for a specific game.
Yeah, okay. And I go to Steam. I don't go to Steam to browse for games that what can I buy now.
What about
past that?
Do you see the advertise hey, Steam sale, or on social media the summer sale?
I don't go to it as much anymore. Okay. I stopped going click throughs as soon as I see the sales 3+ years ago. Okay. Because they acknowledge this problem. It's about wish listing now. People are not looking to pre-purchase. Even indie developers that we talk to on our other podcast, Game Dev Unchained, don't even promote that fact to pre-purchase the game. It's can you wish list my game? Knowing that that's the way that most people do it now.
Okay, so next question then is, what's your experience with wish listing? Do you
if I see a game that is interesting, I wish list it. Okay. But the percentage of me buying it is the only time I actually is somewhat interested is when they email me and say, hey, this is on sale.
Exactly. Okay.
And that's what everyone is doing now. Yeah.
So it sounds like, just if I'm using you and this little sample exercise to kind of represent the bulk of the audience,
well, at least the family
super
man.
Dangerous, right?
Yeah,
super dangerous.
Family man perspective. This is the family man perspective.
But I guess the point that I'm digging for is it sounds like, okay, your experience was you're a lot less about going to Steam because it's a shopping opportunity and more going to Steam because it's a savings opportunity. Yeah. So you're already ready to not spend the original value of the game.
That's the world we're living in.
You're waiting for it to be less than the value that you perceive the game to be worth. Oh, this is a $50 game, but I got it for $30. Yeah. I'll commit now. Yeah. Oh, this was a $20 game, but I got it for $5. I'll commit now. Yeah. That, I would say, if that's the customer user experience right now for Steam, that hurts for the developers because we've made this great game. People are incentivized to not be day one, to not be early adopters, to not be early supporters. They want to wait till you're failing. And then you're have to, because of business, you have to be competitive. You're shit, man, we got to cut it 30%, 40%, 50%. Boom. Now people are showing up. Yeah. Even if you were to say, okay, well then let's just start and sell it from $30. Yeah. People are still going to do the $30. I'm going to wait till it's 10.
Yeah. They're always looking at ways to save. There's so much competition right now.
I'm not mad at that. I'm unearthing it so that we can say this and actually talk about it.
Look at Epic, right? Yeah. We go over there. I'm more inclined to check out what Epic store looks like if I were to choose between the two. Because I know, all right, so somehow these games got on here, so they've been somewhat vetted. Yeah. These are good games. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm more willing to what's hot right now. Mm-hmm. I would check at Epic. It's more of a shortcut. On Steam, I don't get that kind of treatment. I don't know what's hot. Even if Valve has a cover page with all their best picks, they don't even have that, right? These are a top 10 for this month. Mm-hmm. They don't do any of that, right? Epic is the closest to doing that. But even then, when I go to Epic, it's it's games do I want to buy now? There's a epidemic right now within in the game developer community and gamer community of the day one buys, right? Sure. Do people actually buy into that as much anymore. I'm sure Valve has studies to kind of show like is that completely dead?
So here's what I would imagine. I think day one buys will be strong with a game that is primarily based around multiplayer. That isn't games as a service freemium model, right? So like a game like God of War, Grand Theft Auto, Spider-Man, these games where like me specifically, I'm attracted to the single player option. I have two things working against that. A current backlog of games that I haven't gotten through yet. And two, the fact that I know that when I finally do jump into it, it's most likely going to be less expensive than if I were to buy it day one. And a single player experience that I haven't played is always going to be just as good, in my opinion. There will never be a point in time like if I'm like, oh man, I should have got this 4 summers ago when it was popping, when everyone was playing this single player game. Like, no way. Like, I could get God of War 3 right now if I hadn't played and still enjoy it. You know what I mean? Because it's a brand new.
So what would be a solution to that, to kind of solve that issue? Because developers maybe had like 1 year runway after the game shipped to kind of stay on that game and see if it makes money. Well, or is it developers should plan 2 years after a game ships to stay afloat for sure.
I'd say
that's our immediate solution. But
when I look at the economics of it, and this is, I'm going off on a limb here, but the businessman in me says something like this. If I recognize the behavior, I say people are trying to get more value per dollar, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that I have to offer my product at less. They just want the amount of money that they spend to be worth more, right? Their $20 is buying a full game because they waited and they waited for it to drop from $60 to $20. What if there's an opportunity to say, no, sorry, this game is going to be $60 for the next 2 years. But if you buy it 3 months from now, I'm going to pack in 3 or 4 more old games that like completely don't sell at all. So like you're still buying God of War 4 for $60, but we're also going to give you God of War 3, 2, and 1 digitally if you buy it at this point. So now your $60 buys you 4 games, especially if you haven't bought those games before. The developers are still getting their $60 cut. The consumer is still in an opportunity where psychologically they may be doing the same thing, which is, wow, my $60 is now worth 4 games instead of just 1 game. Instead of saying my $60 I don't want to spend because I'm waiting for it to be worth $20.
Right. You're saying that the developers have a backlog of their own games that they can package it with.
Right? I guess I'm bringing it down to try to find the opportunity to still get your money, but to still give the consumer increased value for the money. Because if I break down the actual numbers and just say, what is the behavior that I see happening? I see people wanting to get more for their money. They want to spend less money or get more for it. I think those two things could be related. So like, hey, yeah, you know what? God of War has been out. Or Shenmue 3, it's been on sale for 2 years. It's still $60. But now to sweeten the deal, we're giving you Shenmue 2, Shenmue 1, Sonic Team Racing, and some other Sega products, stuff that's not selling anymore that maybe you don't have, to hopefully sweeten the deal so that you still get that feeling of, I'm going to get way more out of this spend than I would have gotten if I bought it back then. I don't know. I would try that. I don't see the data. I don't know. But I guess I'm kind of on that camp of like, well, let's try to figure out the behavior and then see what we can do to incentivize it in a way that still makes it profitable for us.
Let's look at the other entertainment business and how they solve this issue, because, the movie business have Netflix now, and streaming services has so many different options, but like the movie theaters are still coming strong. I think people are still, I guess, part of the hype, right? Wanting to watch it, spoiler free attitude. Day one, they want to watch it and enjoy it and be able to talk about it the following weekend. Is there anything there that the game developers, gamer community can benefit?
Like taking from the movie model?
Yeah, I mean, like any other entertainment industry that has this issue where there's more than one way to watch a movie.
Sure.
Now there's more than several ways to play the same game on Steam or whatever, right? But then the wish listing and the backlogging, everything's working against us to say wait. But sometimes developers don't have the time to wait. So that would also mean a lot of great games don't get through or get attempt because of how there's a spiral downwards on it.
What's interesting to me is the dynamic of the amount of respect that people have for the content. I feel like differs between games and movies. So let's take a big game, or let's take a big movie like Avengers. spoiler culture is great for big movies because of the fact that people know people are going to want to talk like immediately, and just you have those friends that like get excited about ruining movies and shit. Like I can't remember how many times I saw people like wanting to be that dick who posts, you know, spoilers of Avengers Endgame or whatever. Because of that, you have a lot of people who are like rushing to go see it and who's like, I've blocked the internet until I've seen this movie and like all kinds of stuff. In games, we're like, no way, man. That new game came out. I'm going straight to Twitch. I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to get the experience for no investment because that's what Twitch is allowing right now. And so a spoiler is getting the entertainment for no investment. Like, hey, here's the story. Here's what happens. You mother ever, how could you do that to me? I've been waiting for 10 years for this to come out. You know what I mean? Like something about it's just it's different. You know, it's different. And both of them cost money. It cost me a movie ticket to see Avengers. It cost me $60 to play, you know, Last of Us 2. I for sure went to the movies to make sure that I saw, you know, the new Avengers. I might potentially wait for Uncharted or for Last of Us 2. You know, like I'll probably wait. I don't care that other people are going to be online twitching it. I don't care that people are going to be talking about it. I'm probably going to buy it when I'm like, all right, cool. I've gotten through like 4 or 5 more games in my backlog. I'm going to now spend whatever the cost of that game is because I know it's probably going to be lower than if I bought it day one, then put it in my list of things to play, and then finally got to it when I could have bought it for $30.
Yeah, the percentage of people that put their lists on their list to play is obviously going to be a lot higher than people who just buy it day one. I feel like the bigger games can take the hit, right? But it's the indie titles that obviously don't have, with the same percentage, working in a smaller pool, it can be very destructive. And of course, indie developers already know this. They're working ways around it and just trying to plan ahead and trying to have some overlap with their past games and their new games to kind of have that 1 year wave of until the Steam summer sale to actually see some revenue hit. Like it's always going to be the hardcore people at the beginning that wants to support you and buy your game. So let's say less than 5%, right? A huge percentage that wish list it and wait till a Steam sale to support you further. Is there no way around this to kind of incentivize people and bring more percentage to day one to kind of help support developers? Is there anything as a gamer that you feel like this is something that, you know, would be on equal footing as day one Avengers? I
mean, it's
trying to ruin spoilers.
No, it's okay. I'll say an on the spot answer that I feel like is going to have some like sustenance and sort of substance and value is hard. Because there's really a lot of pieces in play that I would want to evaluate and like really like think and then dive deep on and say this would be my strategy. So the best thing that I can offer any game developer dealing with like this type of thing is just understand that like your market is like the ocean. It's always changing. It's always flowing. There are things that you can count on, right? Like waves, like water, drowning, you know, like floating. Like there's things about the dynamics of the market that you can trust, but you can't just look at the ocean and say the water is going to do exactly this or exactly that, because any little thing can change the market. So it's better to design your business around being a surfer and less about being a swimmer, because a swimmer is going to try to plow through and doesn't matter what the market is doing, they're going to try to swim through, and that takes the most energy. Whereas the surfer is like, what are the waves doing? Okay, how is the wave going to propel me? How do I like use my board to use the least amount of energy to get the longest ride? You have to respect the market like the ocean and design your business to be more like a surfer. So here's why I say that. Let's Play is something new in the market for us. Twitch streaming just in general is something new in the market for us. You know, crowdfunding is something new in the market for us. Freemium, premium models is like new in the market for us. And I'm talking about over, let's just say the last 10 to 15 years, right? All these changes are happening. So you can't be that company that's still like, no, make it $60 game, sell it this way, do it this way, like a swimmer who thinks they're just going to plow through. You have to be the surfer and say, okay, things are different now. How do we, as a company that made single player games, make a single player game in the era of Twitch streaming, of spoilers, of Let's Plays, of try it for 10 minutes, get my refund money from Steam? You know, what types of things can we do to protect against that? And that's really the best thing that I could offer, you know, on the spot. I guess.
Well, I kind of want to take a look at like what Epic is doing, right? Are they solving any of these issues with their store that you feel? I mean, we jump started off of them refunding backers. I think that's a huge.
I think that's great.
Huge advance. It's very smart of them to do so. I hope they continue that if they decide to kind of. It shuts down any exclusive talk, because the great thing that they're doing right now with the Epic Store that no one's talking about Steam. Like, they instantly get coverage every week now, which is great for their store. A lot of interest. And even people who don't want to go to the Epic Store, after the 19th time hearing about it, they'll check it out. And that's part of what their marketing is. And this is why it was such a smart move for them to do this refund, because look at all the press they're getting, right?
It's the Dr. Disrespect model.
Yeah, exactly. So
like, do whatever we can to.
I wonder if any of what they're doing is helping, aside from the like lower percentage, but they're acting as publisher, which Steam I feel like has never done, which is really silly if you think about it, right? I mean, Gabe has been on the record saying that he would never back a game studio, knowing how hard the game studio business is. And it's hypocritical, but because...
That sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. Like, here's a guy with infinite power that crawled through the trenches, know how difficult it is, made it to the top, and revolutionized digital storefronts, right? Or, like, it created a digital storefront and created a trend. And he... in no parts of Steam's success was there ever a funding initiative. Isn't that crazy?
I have a huge problem with Gabe specifically being, the person in charge of Steam and the opportunities that exist there and the amount of resources that I know Steam has at their disposal, to be the one that says, I would never back a game studio because I know how hard it is. That really rubs me the wrong way.
Right.
Because you're sitting on top of the biggest mountain of pile of resources, I would say, for the size of your company that I've ever seen in my life. You have a storefront platform that is probably the most primarily adopted PC storefront platform. Two of the biggest problems with why games is hard as a business, you have such control over and such ample amount of support over that those risks almost don't even exist. And even if you failed, the hit that you would have taken is like a blip. You wouldn't have even known. In my opinion, he's the perfect person who could potentially do something to try to make the changes that help game industries get
more games, finding games. I mean, you own the GameStops of the digital world, right? You have a perfect opportunity to bring these games and promote it and get some money behind it, in front of it first, and then behind it after it ships. They never done any of that. And this is, when I think about that, it makes me not just upset, but not give the same level of respect that I used to Valve. Like, it doesn't feel like they're in it with us anymore. And more like just standing back. They lost such goodwill with developers and gamers in the last few years, from, first of all, not making any games, right? That's their first mistake. And then secondly, with developers kind of just taking a back seat and just letting people fight it out themselves, right?
Valve is like a produce company that only wants to sell the produce that other farmers bring to them, never wanting to invest in seed. Never wanting to invest in like making it so that those farmers can continue to supply them with the thing that they sell.
And it took Epic. Of course, it's not all altruistic. Let's be honest, right? They saw an opportunity to own the gaming market on the digital world, right? The PC market is still dominated by Steam, and Microsoft, Sony, all these guys are just concentrated on the console storefront, right? They don't want to even fight with anybody on the PC. And so Epic's like, dude, a piece of every game. PC is not dead, right? Every year they try to proclaim that it is dead, but it's growing, and it's becoming like a must develop for, in addition to all the consoles. And Valve just sat on their bed, super fat and happy. It's too risky. But like, that's what's great about what Epic is doing, is by being competitive. they're giving a chance to these great developers, right? And although these developers are already kosher, they already made success, they're betting on success already, but they also allowing other types of developer that isn't on the meat, what do you call it? What's that game? Meat Boy, Meat Boy's level to have a chance at it by buying exclusives. Because like, hey, here's a buttload of money, right? Ship it on our store, and we'll do everything we can to promote it. Yeah. And so a lot of their games, you know, they've been publicly released as 500,000 copies sold, right? That's a huge amount of win for these developers. Sure. And you know, they get a percentage that it adds on to their reputation. It adds on to them as being just friendly enough to everybody to want to help the game industry. Yeah. So even with all this, yes, there needs to be a reason behind the greed to endorse this, because they have a board of directors. We can't just donate money to people, right? Yeah. No. So we get 12% of everything. So it is in our power to actually own the storefront, promote it as Epic Games, get all this press, and then we sell. This is a sustainable. This is a sustainable model that doesn't rely on all our creatives to crunch on Fortnite, right? All the time. Like Fortnite will die, like every game will, right? It's not going to be hitting these numbers forever. Acknowledge that now. Got it? Cool. People will buy games. Yeah. That's a fact. People who own PCs especially love to buy games. That's a fact. If we own a percentage of every game that is sold on PC, we will be more than just Unreal, Fortnite. Yes. Right? And this is where Steam has been just unchallenged the last 5 years. Yeah. And they are still very 99% of the PC market. Steam is still ahead. They can still turn things around if they want to. Them doing the VR index, sure. Them doing 3 exclusive games for the VR index, sure. Them not involving themselves in funding any of these games is insane to me. Yeah. Being that they are Valve, right? They're a developer first before becoming a storefront. Like I wouldn't expect the same from EA. I wouldn't expect the same from Activision, right? They're publishers, right? And their business is publishing, but they're more of like the corporate dark side type of. But like Valve still has a special place in all our hearts. Yeah. Why are they not having any funding exclusives with all their money they have?
In fairness of Valve, I guess what I'll produce first to kind of talk about here, because there's 2 things I want to say. What if they're in a scenario of golden handcuffs where, because I don't have the best memory of how Valve has tried to do things in the past and what backlash was, but like them being the number one supported by hundreds of millions of people, right? It's very hard for that type of a company to then say like, hey, we're going to do some stuff differently, because so many people can be outraged. Like we've already seen what happens when small people do like, hey, we're going to do this differently. No, F that, go back. You're ruining Steam. You're ruining this. You're ruining that. So like Valve might be in a different scenario where we're talking about like adjusting course for 100,000 people. Valve is talking about adjusting course for pretty much the entirety of America's population, right?
Sure, but like if they were to not just change first, like their interface or whatever they're changing, just to add a funding initiative.
Sure.
Holy crap! That like people will go to Valve right now.
And so that's the second half of where I say Valve is folly, because they've
never been there.
They're making moves as if they don't understand that it's a symbiotic relationship. Yeah. Steam does not exist as a platform without people supplying the games to be on Steam. If Steam does nothing to help, then that means that it's difficult for, like, I don't want to say it's difficult. They could make it easier for those developers by doing things that help developers. Choosing to not to, because of the opportunity loss, is why I say it's more difficult than it could be, right? They're not making it more difficult, but it could be less difficult if they were to step in. This is a symbiotic relationship. They have to understand that. So, like, even though Steam looks at these people as like little fish cleaning the little meat out of the whale's teeth, the whale depends on those little fish to be able to actually have teeth, to be strong and solid, that aren't full of bacteria, that haven't basically fallen all out because they have no maintenance plan, right? This is a cycle of, I help you, you help me. I do things to help developers make more games, I sell more games, I make more money. The whale without those fish loses teeth, can no longer eat.
Yeah.
Or it can't eat big things, I guess. It can only like inhale tiny fish.
Yeah.
But you get where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
I do want to point out the question. So we have Let's Be Awkward asks, what if the industry adopted a rule of no sales for 1 year on new games? Kind of how if you don't watch a movie in theaters, you have to wait until they're available elsewhere. How do you feel about how that would help or hurt the game industry, I guess? What are your thoughts? And that was a question from the Twitch audience. So
it would definitely help, right? I think if there's a clear indication like these new games are not going to be on sale. There's no sales on this. If you want to play it now, play it. My fear is that consumers, there's so many games on Steam right now. That's on my wish list. That is 3+ years. I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? It doesn't incentivize me to go buy that game. There's just too many games right now at this point that waiting a year makes no dent to me.
Yeah.
It would have to be we just got to go back to the base of the problem, which is why would we need a rule like that? It's to help the developers, right? Yeah. Developers, you just can't rely on other people fixing your problem. Yeah. Right? There are so many avenues. The Epic exclusive stuff is an avenue. Being paid before selling your game is the business of making games. I've said this so many times. We have another podcast, Game Dev Unchained. We interview game developers all the time. And from 195 episodes of interviewing different people, if you're waiting for your game to go on sale, to make money, to be profitable, you are in a losing position already. If you didn't make enough money for you to fund yourself and your company and your team to make a second game before the first game goes on sale, you have miscalculated. And I say that because of all the things that Larry has stated before, Kickstarter, all this different way, getting exclusives, talking to publishers, doing pre-sales, right? Doing dev diaries, getting on Patreon, getting paid monthly, getting support. Like, you need to do all of that before you even have a ship date. And if you do all those things right, there are developers out there that are being paid handsomely. And the bonus, and this is the world we live in, the bonus is selling it when it goes on sale. Yeah. We're in a world of Star Citizen. That game hasn't been out yet and has made over $100 million. That is, we're in the world of Fire Festival. Before anybody breaking sand, I'm going to say dirt. There's no dirt on that island, right? Yeah. Breaking sand to set up tents.
They had the money before.
Money before. That is what the industry is like, because everybody, if you're waiting for the consumer to support you, after hearing about you being marketed, after it finally goes on sale, you will be dead on arrival.
Super risky. It's super risky. And I'll say that, like, I can acknowledge that it would be very hard, right? For like, hey, we're going to make a $300 million game, right? Yeah. So let's go ask a publisher for $600 million. Yeah. I can see that being very difficult. So I understand, like, super huge ships may not be able to ask for two to build one. Yeah. But anything below that, right? Yeah. Like, if I'm making $100,000 game, I ask the publisher for two. I think that's more reasonable to, like, seeing that be successful, or at least 150. Like, hey, we have half of the next project. We can at least get that far into it and have a chance to line up funding or to line up publishing through another deal. That first one is already done, and we're already working on the second one, not trying to do business development with nothing in the bank. So, yeah, I agree. I think that the more you can do safely, obviously, the better. The better,
because it helps you in several ways, right? Yeah. By doing everything before you ship your game, of course, make your game, make it awesome. That is, of course, rule number one, right? Rule number two is, like, building that audience, getting familiar with marketing, putting yourself out there, seeing what works, what doesn't work, having a following, because those people that you're talking about first day buys are the hardcore fans. Who are your hardcore fans? Are you giving them a reason to be hardcore fans? Those are the only people that you care about for day one buys. Everyone else won't be a day one buy. They just simply won't. If they haven't bought into your ecosystem, whatever you're trying to market yourself as before the game ships, they're not going to be day one buys, and you can't count on them. You shouldn't care what Valve does. The only thing that we're promoting with Valve talking about, Big Ben Redux saying about Valve Dev grants, right? Is part of the Epic exclusive stuff. Yeah, Valve should definitely have a grant to help the little people to kind of get back on good terms with them, but also fund and curate. That's how they would curate their content, put it on the front page. These are Valve picks, because I still trust Valve as a developer having good taste, right? All that team over there that is just fattening their wallet every week. There are still good developers out there in Valve that can look at these games. It's like this is a game picked by Valve, the Valve team, right? We are funding it and we are promoting it. And it's like, holy shit. If I see that in the headlines, it's like, I'm going to check this game out.
Yeah. And I guess Valve has the data, right? Like all the stuff that we used to be able to see through Steam Spy. Yeah. Valve had that data first. They have more data. They have more points that they can like evaluate and say like, oh, this company has a way better track record than this company. This company's products have come out at this price point, and here's a percentage of value based on how much it originally cost, how much they sell. They lower the price, how much it sold. They lower the price. Here's how much. Valve sees everything that goes from, or they see every piece of money that goes into buying a product through their platform, right? They know the numbers. They know how often, how many, they know when. They see all of this. They are primed to be the ones to be able to say, if I were to invest in a game studio, which one would it be and how much, right? Like to say it's too risky, like they're playing poker face up with everyone else's cards except for theirs. You know what I mean? Like they're in the least risky position to make a call like that, in my opinion. If you're to base on track record, if you're to base on like customer support, if you're to base on all these things, like they have way more advantages to be less wrong.
Yes,
I'll say
they have. If they just finance 10 of these games, they'll have a game every quarter. Yeah. We wouldn't make fun of Valve not putting out their own first-party games. It's crazy how much power they are and how little they're doing with it. They can literally have a game put out every 3 months and with a Valve stamp on it, published by Valve, and we would buy into it, and they would sell way more, and they would make way more money than they are making. They're making a lot of money right now, but they would make way more, and then I would go back to Steam to kind of check these games. Dude, so I just solved your issue, but they don't care. You don't care, Gabe.
Here's the thing. Valve, the game developer, and Valve, the owners of Steam, are the same company. And that is the problem. They need to pull a Google Alphabet and say Steam is a platform that is owned by a parent company. Valve is a game development studio. Yeah. If they had a CEO, if they had a team that was like, okay, we are now a wing that is just doing game development, and then we are the wing that is just doing the Steam, even though a parent company owns both, I promise you, all the people complaining about not seeing Valve games anymore, that would be solved, because you have a company that is explicitly and exclusively driven to make the bottom line for game development. Yeah. And a company explicitly and exclusively driven to make Steam the best alternative. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, that is both our 2 cents, 1 cent each. This is Games Recap. Thank you for joining us. We are here 10 a.m. Pacific time. We go an hour. We come into this with a headline and we go off tangents. Sure. But we bring it right back.
Great discussion.
Because it's a great discussion, because this is important, and we come with it with a game developer perspective, and we're talking from experience. You think Larry and I started the game industry to start doing podcasts? No, man. This is how we make our game. This is what we're doing. We're doing exactly like what we're saying, because this is how it is. All right. You got to build an audience first, make some money off of that, and then sell your game.
Yeah, that's our strategy.
That is our strategy. So if you want to support us, go to our patreon.com/Blue Chance. If you miss any second of this, you can be a Twitch Prime subscriber, and you can access this on Twitch. If you want early access, and you can go straight to our Patreon again, you get this a week early. But Games Recap is daily. This is not behind a wall, but all our other shows are a week later, if that makes sense. But speaking of other shows, we do have Invisible Walls coming up next. We're going to do a 5-minute hydration period, and we're going to come back with you to break down walls. Right? Talking about breakthroughs and bettering ourselves. And this is our only non-gaming show. So what else is there besides gaming? Everything else. So that's the Everything Else show. And it's gotten quite interesting the last few episodes. So tune in for that. And I'm going to leave it to Larry to exit us from this conversation.
Yeah, when you... See you tomorrow, guys. Consider yourselves recapped.